Hey everybody, Mike Roberts here. I've been teaching for 22 years now, ranging from junior high on up through the college level. I'm also an author, I'm an instructional coach right now. So I really dig teaching, and this little session is going to be 8 proactive classroom management strategies that you can implement into any classroom. So regardless if you're a second grade teacher, 12th grade teacher, kindergarten, college, these are all little things that you can do that are going to improve the classroom management in your class. I'm a big believer that there's not one strategy that is, this is the strategy to use and everything's great. I'm a big believer in it's all those little things that you do. So that's what this session is going to be about. Each idea that I give you is going to come with 3 separate strategies. So you have the big concept, and then you'll have the smaller concepts broken down a little bit. Let me put this into present mode. As you can see here, you have access to all the slides. All you got to do is plug that into your URL, and all these slides will be available to you. And I also have a one-page handout, which kind of labels everything in real simple one-page format for you. So the research will tell us that strong teacher-student relationships benefit students in a ton of ways. And, here's some things, some site sources that I cited. But it not only improves their academics, it improves how they feel socially about each other. Disruptive behavior goes down, dropout rates, are lowered. So making those connections with your students really does benefit the students in all aspects of their learning. Fun fact, it also benefits you, and that's the second part down here, that your relationship with that student makes you enjoy class more. Okay, it makes you want to be there. It makes you want to come to class and see those kids and try new things and laugh and all that good stuff. So as you're going through these things, don't just think of it that this is going to benefit my students. You also need to think on how it's going to benefit you, especially over the long term. What my 22 years as a teacher tells me is that a lot of classroom management books and strategies that you read about are very reactive in nature. So something happens, here's how you react to it to calm it down. And a kid says something, this is what you do to bring him back into the mix. For me, in these strategies, we really focus on the proactive element. Little things that you can do to avoid having to be reactive. You're going to be engaging them enough that those things that, kind of take them off track, hopefully won't be happening. And I think if you can establish these early and then build upon them as the year goes on, it gets even more solid in your creating your relationship with your students. So each of the strategies, like I said, I'm going to give you the main strategy, and then I'll break it down into here's 3 ways you can implement that. I also will show you a little picture of a TV teacher or a movie teacher and talk about why I really dig them. So without further delay, here, my friends, are 8 proactive classroom management strategies that work in any classroom. Number 1, super simple, say your students' names. Say it a lot, say it as often as you can. So when they're walking in and you're just, at the door greeting them, say their name. Don't just say, hey, how's it going? Come on in. Use their name. We all love hearing our name. It's just, I don't know, you just dig it. When taking roll, so say their name again when taking roll. You can do something cool, you play a little role game where I'm going to say your name and you need to tell me your favorite ice cream flavor. I'm going to say your name and you need to tell me, what your favorite movie is. So you're saying their name and learning about them in the process as well. And every time they say, share an idea in class, recognize them for that. And this is one that I was guilty about for many years. A kid would say, raise their hand. I say, yeah. Ooh, good. Next. Ooh, I like that. Now I make that effort. When that kid raises their hand, you call on them by name. When they say that response, you say, hey, thank you, Billy. That was great. Again, the more you can incorporate their names, the more it gives them that buy-in that they're part of the community and they're part of the class and they're part of the culture that's going on. One teacher who really did this well, I don't know, some of you newer teachers might not even know this dude. This is Mr. Cotter, okay? And Mr. Cotter taught a group of students called the Sweat Hogs. And the Sweat Hogs, other teachers had trouble with them, but he looked at them as people rather than as these problem students. And the quote down here I really like. He says, I'm a teacher. That's what it says on my locker, Mr. Cotter, teacher. And I'm teaching a bunch of students called Sweat Hogs. Now, contrary to popular opinion, Sweat Hogs are not dumb. I mean, a dumb person does not think of A dumb person does not think of a way to make it rain in the gymnasium. That is one of the things that Vinnie Barbarino, who was John Travolta, if you care, did. So he's looking at them. He's saying their names every day. He's finding out about them. He's inviting them. Mr. Cotter, welcome back, Cotter. Great show. Highly recommend it. Next on our list, compliment and thank your students often. And compliment them about their work and effort. Don't just put that A on their paper, that B on their paper, that 84% on their paper. See them after class and say, hey, you did a great job on this. And if in class, even if it's not something that's graded, if you have students who are working hard, make sure you say, hey, I appreciate that. I'm a big believer in praising their work and their effort verbally, even though it's cool to see on paper. The more you can say it to them and let them know that you are proud of them, I think the more buy-in they have. Also about their positive choices. We're very quick to point out the negative things they do. Stop doing this, sit down, don't say that. Start recognizing the positive things that they do as well, because that can kind of, those positive reinforcements, again, create that idea that they'll want to do better because they know they'll get recognized for the good instead of only getting recognized for the bad. And I'm a huge believer, at the end of every class, thank your students. As much as we like to think our students love being in our class, sometimes it is a grind. Even your class, even my class, even the best class, there are students in there who it's not really their thing. And so at the end of every class, I'm like, hey, everybody, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Have a good day. And then, if you're at the door, you could be greeting them as they leave and just saying, hey, I appreciate the effort today. Nice job. Thank you, Billy. Blah, blah, blah. And so again, using their names, reinforcing their behavior in these little ways, I think is the best way to do it. You're just building that foundation brick by brick rather than saying, here's a pre-made house. This is Ellen Gruwell. I think it's Gruwell from Freedom Riders. Geez, I went blank for a second. From Freedom Riders. And if you've seen Freedom Riders, you know that she was willing to put in that extra time, and she praised them for their effort and for their participation and for being a part of her class. And I love this quote: I'm not letting you fail, even if that means coming to your house every night until you finish the work. I see who you are. Do you understand me? I see you, and you are not failing. She's complimenting them. She's saying you can do this. She's building them up rather than dragging them down. And the more you compliment your students and the more you thank them, the more that's going to be building them up. And that's what you want to be doing. Next, I know this one sounds so silly. Talk to students. Duh, I know. But are you talking to students throughout the day, or are you talking to students during the 50 minutes that you have them in your class? There is a difference. So during class, that's great. That's the first one up there. During class, hey, you're supposed to be talking to them. But what about in the halls? When you're going to the bathroom in between classes, when you're out standing in the hall, inviting other people into your class and things like that, are you talking to your students on a regular basis? This is a great way to establish these relationships that I'm telling you are so important, even before you have students in your classes. So as students are walking in the hall, if you see a kid with a cool shirt on, comment on it. Be like, hey, man, I like that shirt. You might not have that student right now, but you may have them next year or the year after that. And if you can start building that relationship, laying those bricks to build that house, hey, it's going to pay off later on. And after school and at lunch. Again, I love, going out into the lunchroom and just kind of walking around and just talking to kids. And I know, teachers need their little breaks and things like that. I'm not saying you're sitting down there and dedicating your entire lunch period to talking with the kids. I'm saying as you're going to and from your classroom on these little trips that we take every single day, it does. It always weirds me out when you see teachers walking in the hall and they don't make eye contact with any of the students or don't say anything to any of the students. This is a great opportunity to build those relationships in a way that's totally unrelated to your content. This is Mr. Shoup. Mr. Shoup is a teacher from the movie Summer School, classic from the 1980s. He taught these students, and he taught them in summer school, and at the end, a lot of them kind of failed. They didn't hit the standard. I think 70%, and they didn't hit the standard, some of them. But what he said is, but look, there's more going on here than test scores and grades. you all worked hard and improved. He was looking for growth in his students. He was looking for the bright side of the situation, and because he got to know who they are and he saw that they were working hard. It's not about that end result, it's about the process, it's about the time you put in. And because he got to know his students beyond just the curriculum, he was able to say, hey, I'm proud of you, even if you're not hitting the standards that the state is setting up for you. I'm proud of you for putting in that time, for working hard. And by getting to know them, he's able to reflect that to them. If he had just gone with the old curriculum, he'd say, yep, you failed, sorry. But because he got to know them, he was able to show that he was proud of their efforts. So Mr. Shoup Summer School, classic, love it. Next, let your students assess you and your teaching often. I know this is kind of scary. So this means, I think a lot of times at the end of the quarter, and this is mentioned here, at the end of a semester, we have our students fill out a little evaluation on us, maybe even at the end of the year. The problem with doing it at the end of a semester, end of the year, is all that feedback you're getting from those students, a lot of times those students aren't in your class anymore. So they're telling you, hey, it really would have improved my experience had you been able to do this. But then you're not able to do it for those students. And your next group, it might be different. And so I'm a big believer, even after class, exit ticket. Hey, let me know how I did. Give me a thumbs up. Did we like today? What do we think? Hey, just for 1 minute, tell me, what could I have done better today that would have made this, improve things for you? I think taking those little informal feedback sessions after class or after a unit help you adjust to your current students rather than your future students. And it's nice to get that for your future students, but remember, your audience right now is who you have. And so you want to be getting that feedback as often as you can about what's working and what isn't working so you can adjust to fit them. Otherwise, it's them having to adjust to fit you. And that's kind of backwards to me. We're here to help students. Students shouldn't be here to adjust to us. And yes, there's going to be some natural adjusting going on, but if you can do little things to improve, it's going to be so much better for you because you're not going to be butting heads. You're not going to be having those issues because there's that buy-in that you care about what they think. So anytime you can give a little after class, after a unit, or at the end of a quarter, semester, term, do it as often as you can. This, Jaime Escalante, this is stand and deliver. And in stand and deliver, my lights just went out, so hold on, I have to move. There we go. In stand, he held high expectations for his students. And he didn't let them, think less of themselves. And by him not letting them think less of himself, it challenged him to bring his A game every single day. And he says right here, you're going to work harder than you've ever worked anywhere else. And the only thing I ask from you is ganas, desire. Oh, it's a great movie. Takes you back. This is also from the 80s, I believe. If you're a math teacher, this is your jam right here. But you got to have that desire. You got to have that passion to improve. And how you improve is getting feedback. You got to be ready. Hey, this is not all going to be rainbows and unicorns here. You got to be ready for some harsh feedback sometimes and really say, hey, what can I do to improve? If you're up there teaching and heads start going down, don't get mad at the students for putting their heads down. Kind of reflect and say, this might be on me. What can I do to make it so their heads don't go down? And sometimes you got to take that hard look in the mirror at what you're doing, and letting your students assess you sometimes is that opportunity. Let students self-assess. Ooh, this one's super scary because right now you're thinking, what do you mean self-assess? I'm going to let them grade themselves because they're always going to give themselves A's. I know, that's what we all assume. But when we assume, it's because we don't know and we jump to our, what we are thinking might happen. So I've been letting students self-assess for the last 6 or 7 years. And again, this goes from my junior high kids to my college students. And generally speaking, the students are honest and give you a real score. I would say about 85% of the time they nail it. And exactly what I'm thinking they earn on this paper or this project or whatever it is, they give themselves that score. Now, some of you are thinking, haha, but with that 20%, see, they're cheating. They're going to inflate their grade and they're going to do this because that's what Sally does and she's all about the A. And look, I get it. But here's the truth. that 20%, I'd say about 15% of those, I have to raise their grade up. So not are they being too easy on themselves, they're being too hard on themselves. That I have to say, hey, hold on a second here. Let's really look through what you did here and really reflect. And so I'm boosting grades up. Now, there are those 5% that you do have to talk to about, hey, here's what I'm thinking, and here's why I don't think you're getting 100% on this. But just like anything else, whether it's a sport, whether it's a subject, kids need to learn these kind of things. They're not going to get it that first time. And so you're going to have to teach them and kind of coach them along the way of, hey, here's what I'm expecting if you think you're an A. This, and this. And if you're a B, you're probably this, and this. And let them start figuring it out. But it's not going to happen overnight where everybody gets it. But if you give them that opportunity on assignments and tests, on behavior issues, with their attitudes, it's empowering them in the process. It's not you saying, here's the grade that I think you deserve on this paper. It's here's the grade that we think you've earned on this paper. And with behavioral issues, how are you acting in class? It's not you saying you're doing this and you're doing this and you're doing this. It's you asking them, how do you think you're doing? And let's talk about this. Same thing with their attitude. You're empowering them to have some say in these things. And a big issue between teachers and students is that power struggle where you have control and you let them know what they can do. If you can just give them a little bit of rope and let them, have a little bit of slack there, I think that you're going to be impressed with what they come up with. So let your students self-assess. I do this quite often on most assignments, on behavior. They do weekly self-assessments where they write into me, here's the grade I think I've earned and here's why. And like I said, 80% of the time, they're nailing it. And even higher as we've kind of gone through and coached. And so I would say the vast majority at this point, I'm raising scores more than lowering scores. And again, this is, of course, Professor McGonagall from Harry Potter. And is a great quote. It's high time your grandmother learned to be proud of the grandson she's got rather than the one she thinks she ought to have. And I like this quote because a lot of times students will get mad at the grade they get rather than the one, hold on, let me rephrase that. They're mad at the grade they think they ought to have gotten rather than appreciating the grade they have. And by allowing them to self-assess, they're going to appreciate that, wait, this is what I've earned. This is what I deserve. This is not what you gave me. And again, you'll talk through all these things. And if they give themselves too high of a score, then you will talk about, hey, you got to lower it. And if they go too low, you got to say, hey, let's really look at this. And if they get it right on, you say, this is exactly what I was thinking. Well done. So let students self-assess. I know, super scary, especially when you're talking about tests and projects and things like that. It can be done though. Give students choices. And again, this is another one where just by releasing just a little bit of that power, you're going to build these relationships. I have a saying, trust until you bust them. I think too often we set up these parameters because we're afraid of what's going to happen. And I say, why don't we go in and say, hey, everybody, you're good until I have reason to doubt you. But too often we set up these parameters and we doubt them, so that's why we set them up. So give them choices in where they sit. And again, some of you are thinking, wait a second, you mean let them sit where they want to? Yes. And you're thinking, but you don't know about these 3 kids. And I do know about these 3 kids. We all know about those 3 kids. We all have those 3 kids. If you only have 3 kids, that's lucky because many of us have 4 or 5 or 6 of those style kids in a class. Look, here's the deal. The vast majority of your students, though, are going to appreciate it, and they're not going to take advantage of it. So I let my students know, hey, I'm going to trust you. If I need to move you, I will. And guess what? I do need to move kids from time to time, but it's a handful of kids. So I'm not punishing everybody because 4 kids can't sit together. And guess what? When I do move those 4 kids, I give them a chance the next day or the next week to try again, because that's what you do in school. You give second chances. You give them chances to learn and then show you that they learned. And again, this is how you build those relationships. Hey guys, we messed up here, okay? And then you talk to them. All right, so why am I moving you? And then you'll talk through that. Okay, well, what's our plan now? All right, I'll let you, okay, we'll go a week, and then I'll let you sit back together. But what happens if you can't handle it again? And you're engaging them in that process. Same thing with assignments. Give them, the one size fits all does not fit all. You got to give them options on assignments. You got to give them 4 or 5 or 6 project options. Let them play into their strengths rather than playing into the one way that is going to work for you. And on that same thing, I'll often give my students a chance to create their own project. I call it a do something that impresses me project. And they have to talk to me about it, and we talk about the standards that they have to hit and all that stuff. But they come up with some super cool ideas that I would never think of that shows me that you understand the topic. And they buy into it because you've given them that power. You've given them that option to be part of the system rather than fighting against the system. And same thing in picking their groups. You know, I let my students pick their groups. I always say choose wisely and work with someone who you're going to be productive with. That said, sometimes, you know, 2 knuckleheads will want to work together and they crash and burn. And then we talk about it and how can we improve this next time. And the one thing I do with picking their groups, so I always ask them, hey, just work with someone you didn't work with last time we worked in a group. So that still gives them, hey, I'm picking my group. I just can't work with my 2 best friends again. But I still get to say, who do I get to work with? But it's not the same group every single time. So there's some flexibility in here where you're still working within the system, but you're also letting them play into the system a little bit as well. This, not really a true teacher if we're going for that, but definitely a teacher in what he modeled. And as coach, I think coaches are oftentimes take on a lot of the teacher elements and roles. This is Mr. Miyagi from The Karate Kid. Lessons, not just karate only, lessons for whole life. Whole life, have a balance. Everything be better. That's what I'm talking about here. If you gotta, it's a give and take, and you gotta give them some opportunities to show you what they can do, and they'll give it back to you by letting you realize that they can live up to those experiences. So you got to give them these opportunities to sit where they want and to choose their assignments. This is how they learn to be better people. This is how they learn to manage life. Life is not your class, okay? But they can learn about life in your class. And that's what you want to do, is give them these opportunities where you're still holding to the high standards. They still have those expectations, but they also have a role in how that all plays out. So give students choices as often as you can. Make Mr. Miyagi proud. Show your students that you trust them. And again, we've talked about this one. And this kind of is a combination of a lot of things that we've already talked about. But self-assessments, let them do those self-assessments. Let them know, hey, I'm trusting you to tell me how you really did. I'm trusting you to be honest here. Take-home exams. What? Scary. But with online teaching and things like that, you have to be willing to trust your students. I won't give students take-home exams paper. I'm old school, so I have them hand out the paper. And as they're leaving my classroom, I just have them look me in the eye and they say, Mr. Roberts, I promise I will not cheat. And then I say, don't let me down. And they walk on out. And then the next day when they walk on in, I have them look me in the eye and they say, Mr. Roberts, I promise I did not cheat. And I say, thank you very much. And then we grade the thing as a class. And when they get their, when I'm putting the grades in the grade book, it's always awesome when that kid who had that take-home exam gets that same score that you'd expect them to get. I tell you what, I've never been more proud of some students when they get a D on a test, a take-home test, because they had every opportunity to cheat and they didn't. And that's so rad. And we talk about this. We have what I call the integrity talk, where, hey, man, your integrity is not worth 2 points in 8th grade. Come on. And we talk about, believing in yourself and the skills that you're learning here, you can learn later. But the trust factor is tougher to build back if you do cheat. And so, yes, you do have the kids. Again, I'm not saying these things are flawless. You will have those kids who cheat. But again, you use those as learning opportunities. And you talk to them about it. And those situations become less and less. But you got to give students, again, the ones who cheat, It's a very small percentage. 98% of your students are going to be great with this. They're going to appreciate you trusting them. And by that, giving them that trust, it's going to make them want to behave better and put forth a better effort because you are saying to them, I trust you here. And then same thing with the bathroom policy. I'm going to get up on a little soapbox here. Limiting how many times a kid can go to the bathroom in a quarter just seems weird to me. To say you can only go 3 times, well, what if that kid really has to go that 4th time? That's a fight I'm not willing to lose. You know, it's hard to validate that. You know, well, why did the kid go to the bathroom in your class? Well, because he already used the 3 bathroom passes. It just doesn't make sense. School is the only place where you have to ask to use the bathroom. So, you know, my kids know if you got to go to the bathroom, just give me a wave or whatever. Let me know where you're going. Grab the hall pass. Out you go. Because you got to be accountable for your kids. The principal or a parent shows up and says, where's, you know, Betsy? You got to know where Betsy is. But to say 3 times, and again, to give extra credit, if you don't use all your bathroom passes, you're going to have some kid have like a urinary tract infection because they want to get 3 extra credit points in your class. It's not worth it. So you can have a little log where they just sign out and then, you know, keep track. And again, a lot of you are thinking, yeah, but kids will take advantage of that. If they start to take advantage of it, talk to them. Talk to them and say, what's going on here? You know, yes, last week you left 4 times in class. You know, what can I help with? Or if you look at the log and that kid's leaving every single class, pull them aside and say, look, man, this seems fishy to me. And a lot of times just bringing awareness to them stops the problem. So show them that you trust them, but you got to be ready to also understand that, okay, well, I'm going to have to kind of help them with this. And again, that's what school is for. School is to help students learn and to coach them through these things. And this, of course, is Miss Frizz. Take chances, make mistakes, and get messy. And I like this quote with this one because you're taking a chance by letting them do those self-assessments. You're taking a chance by letting them do those take-home exams. You're taking a chance by kind of rearranging your seating policy or your bathroom policy or your group work policy. And it's going to get messy sometimes. But that doesn't mean, just because it's not perfect the first time, doesn't mean you scrap it. Because I've talked to a lot of teachers over the years and they say, well, I have a system. My system's okay. My system works. And I always ask them, well, what if there's a better system? What if you're missing out on a system that's better because you're stuck in where you've always been? And so try some of these ideas, try some of these strategies, knowing that there may be a couple bumps in the road, but that's part of the growth of you as a teacher and for your students as well. And then the last one here, include some easy days intentionally include some easy days in your teaching. So fun review games, okay? You are intentionally saying this is going to be kind of an easier day, and it's okay. We're going to keep learning. We're going to be reviewing, but it's not going to be as you know, reading intensive or writing intensive or lab intensive. You can still have those days to kind of regroup. You can have catch-up days, especially towards, you know, the end of a quarter, where you say, all right, hey, you know what, today we're going to have a catch-up day. Some of you have some missing assignments here. We're going to work on it. Those who don't, I'm going to be coming around and talking to you about, you know, your grades and how things are going. And so the kids who need it, they're catching up. The kids who are where they should be, you're reinforcing that they're doing good stuff. And, you know, you have some other options available for them to do that day as well. But it's okay to have catch-up days every now and then. It will help you and your students to kind of make sure, you know, you're moving forward and you're not getting stuck in a rut. And then anytime you can do an end of quarter celebration or any type of celebration in general. I'm not saying this is going to take up the entire day, but if you can celebrate a kid's birthday or a sports team that did really well or some random holiday, those are things, spend 5-10 minutes. And those are the things, I mean, if I were to ask you, who are some of the teachers you remember? And what do you remember about their classes? I think most of you will remember the teachers and how they treated you and the things you did, those kind of unique things that made their class special or the way they made you feel special. I don't think many of us are going to say, oh yeah, I really remember learning the Pythagorean theorem that Thursday in math class, or I really like the way, you know, we talked the plot structure, you know, in Lord of the Flies on Wednesday. you remember those things, but it's not what makes a teacher the memorable teacher. And so have these little fun, easy days mixed in into the daily grind. And even if it's not the full period, it can be that little 15, 20-minute break. Your students will appreciate it. This is Coach Carter. Coach Carter, it's a basketball movie, but a lot of good teaching elements in here. And I know Coach Carter didn't say this quote, so if you're a Coach Carter expert, don't come at me. But this is something that he instilled in his players. You said we were a team. One person struggles, we all struggle. One person triumphs, we all triumph. And that's where these little celebrations can come in. You know, if you have a couple kids who are in the play, hey, recognize them, have a little celebration for them the day after the play's done. You have sports athletes and players who are on sports teams, celebrate their victories. Those students who are struggling, like it says right here, one person struggles, we all struggle. So spend some time and let's work together and you know, help this ship rise. So have some of those easy days. Don't feel guilty about it. Plan for them. It's a great way for you and your students to kind of take a breath, kind of regroup, and then go into some of the more heavy stuff. So, whoops, why is it not going to my next slide? There we go. If you proactively empower your students a little bit each day, the students will positively react to what you're doing. And each day will just get a little bit better and a little bit better. And that foundation you lay at the beginning, you're just adding a brick to it each day of the year. And by the end, hopefully you've built this house on this foundation of trust and mutual respect and all those things that go beyond the curriculum. And please know, I have never regretted giving a student a second chance or a third chance or a fourth chance. But I have regretted not giving a student a second chance. When you get mad and you don't give that kid that chance to recover. I've regretted, you know, I can think of 4 or 5 where I know I should have done, just give them that chance to rewrite, give them that chance to turn in that assignment late, give them that chance to apologize, give them that chance to, and you just didn't. And so please, with all of these, give your students the opportunity to let them show you who they are and let them build that trust and that mutual respect with you. So those classroom management strategies that we were talking about there, beginning, the reactive ones where you're kicking them out of class and you're sending home emails and you're kicking them down to the office, hopefully those become less because you're laying these brick by brick to build this strong house based around respect and just a mutual appreciation for what's going on. All right, contact information. So here's all my contact information. If there's anything in here that you want or need more detail on, please let me know. You can reach me on my website. You can reach me. Power just went out again. Come on, where to go? You can reach me on Twitter @BaldRoberts. You can email me at thebaldenglishteacher@gmail.com. All the slides are there, all the handouts. I would love to hear if you try some of these ideas and it's highly successful. I'd love for you to tell me, hey, Roberts, this really worked. I'd also love to hear from you if what we talked about here doesn't work for you, because maybe I can offer you up some tips and, well, how about you try this? So I'm open to both the positive and the negative. If you try some of these things, please keep me posted. And if there's anything that I can do to help you out, I have a lot of resources. So if you just want to email me and say, hey, I'm starting this new unit. I was an English teacher for 20-something years, but I've also taught stuff on, you know, college stuff in classroom management, literacy in the content area. If you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to help and share as much as I possibly can. Ladies and gentlemen, that is this session. My name is Mike Roberts. I appreciate the time you've put into this, and I appreciate the fact that you are willing to watch videos like these to improve as a teacher. I think it says a lot about you that you're willing to do that in order to help you improve the learning that your students are doing. So thank you very much for taking the time to watch this. And again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. Thank you all very much. Have a great school year. Bye-bye.